Okay guys, this review has become more interesting unfortunately than I wanted it to be. So I'm gonna have to split it in two parts, the good and the bad. This is the first part will be the good, and there will be another part after this one with the bad. I want to talk about these things separately, and I want to have enough time, talking about each of them, and I don't want to mix the whole thing into a 40-minute video that nobody will share with anybody. So forgive me for that, but this is what I decided. So this is the good part of Daiwa Ryoga 2018. Okay. The frame on all of these Daiwas is one-piece machine-cut aluminum, and so are the two side plates. They're also one-piece machine-cut aluminum, but there is something of a departure in this design in the way this side plate is attached to the frame. Everything else used to be screwed in. This one has a different mechanism that I'm going to show you later. But aside from the way the side plate is attached to the frame, the other difference is the size of the side plate. Look how thin it is, okay? Look at the size of this one. Compare the blue versus this one. Even though I can tell you there is more stuff under this little side plate, there is practically nothing here. I don't know why they make this so big. And Daiwa makes note of the size of this side plate, and they call it direct touch or something like that, and they claim that it's gonna benefit you when you palm the reel. You can have a better feeling while you reel. Here's the shrapnel versus the new Ryoga in my right hand. These frames have always been bulletproof, and part of the reason why people have been paying these crazy prices for a reel, because on one hand these reels feel as sophisticated and precise like a Rolex, and on the other hand they feel and look like they're made from the front plate armor of a tank. It's a really unique combination of both precision and sophistication and just brutal strength. But Daiwa did not just completely copy the appearance of the shrapnel here and put it on the shape of the previous Ryoga. There are some differences, like look at the foot of the shrapnel. They left it stainless steel, which really bothered me, while this time they painted the foot, which is good. However, the thumb bar on the shrapnel is black, and the thumb bar on the Ryoga is stainless steel. Also, the side plates of the shrapnel, if you look at the edge here, it's a lot softer, which is more difficult to machine, and it's painted black, painted anodized, whatever. These edges on the Ryoga, not soft, it's just a sharp cut. I mean sharp, not that it is gonna cut you, but it's just a flat cut. And they didn't paint or anodize it, leaving it stainless steel, which in my opinion was a mistake. On this reel that would be fine, but because this reel was otherwise perfectly black, I don't think this white edge here fits nicely with the appearance of the reel. That was a missed opportunity in my opinion. And the last important thing when we compare the frames, I don't know where the weight savings come from, but this reel is significantly lighter than the older version. It's 40 grams lighter, but when I hold them, I don't know, it feels significantly lighter in your hand than the old one. And compared to the shrapnel, I mean, it's probably only half the weight of this thing here. In terms of the handle, the knobs on the other Ryogas are really thick. This might be personal. Okay, for this reel, maybe there is an excuse for having such thick knobs. Although I prefer big but thin. And these are just, I mean, this one is salt water, but this EVA foam feels like a casting reel. I strongly dislike these knobs and I'm thinking of replacing them. This handle is 90mm, oversized, swept in, and the knobs, oh my god. If you're into bass fishing, this will improve your sensitivity. Really comfortable, soft touch knobs. The new spool tension knob on this reel is a new feature and kind of interesting idea from Daiwa, and basically what they wanted to do is not allow the user to free the spool too much so it can have side-to-side play, nor allow the user to over tighten it. But I actually think that Daiwa did not accidentally come with this new feature here. The reason I think they put this change in this knob was because this year they added the new magnetic brake. I'm going to talk more about it later. But anyway, none of the old Ryogas have magnetic brake. They have the old, centrifugal 2-pin brake. And Daiwa was afraid that nobody is going to use their new magnetic brake. And people, they always call this knob, cast control knob instead of spool tension knob, and they don't use it to tighten the spool, but they use it actually as a brake. This is just something that Daiwa didn't want people to do after putting this expensive and rather sophisticated brake on the other side plate. People still messing with the spool tension knob here. So that's what they did. They said, okay, we're gonna pre-adjust everything for you and we're gonna name it Zero Adjust Knob, just so people stop messing with it and start using the actual brakes on the reel as designed, as intended by the engineers. This of course is not gonna happen, I can promise you this. The people will keep calling this cast control knob and they're gonna use it even more than before for a couple of reasons. This new brake, not very user friendly. I'll have a lot more on that later. And this new Zero Adjust knob actually works amazingly well now as a brake. In my tests, it has a very sophisticated control over the free spinning on the spool. So even though it was the wrong thing to do before, now after their fix, it's actually much better as a brake, which again is the wrong thing to do. But if you want to do it, it's actually better at that than before. The level wind now has a SICK insert, which is a departure and I think improvement over the previous models that don't have that. It still doesn't have the T-wing because I think the spool is just too narrow for a T-wing to move left and right, but because the spool is so narrow, you don't even need a T-wing because the angles will never be too big. The clutch in terms of operation on all Ryogas feels pretty much the same, which is extremely firm, very positive. It's either engaged or disengaged. There is no stopping it in the middle. When the handle pushes it a little, it pops all the way. And the only thing is the noise is very metallic. Okay, on this one, on the old one, even more so. Listen to this sound. Oh my god. Extremely metallic. If you're bass fishing and you're casting all day, this may become a little bit too much for the ear. I actually prefer slightly, more muffled, kind of rubberized sound, but let's not be too picky here. Hey, interesting, I noticed, look, the two reels are the same size, but they managed to make the thumb bar on the new reel a little bit bigger than on the old one. Of course, much smaller than the shrapnel. Man, the shrapnel is the best Ryoga ever. Look at this thumb bar. And look, not shiny stainless steel, but anodized black aluminum, and look at the texture they put on it. Look at this texture. Amazing. I think that's all on the outside, except the dial for the magnetic brake, but I'm gonna leave this for later. Now let's look at how this side plate is attached. If you wanna remove the side plate, do not try to turn it. Just find this here. I thought it was another clicker. Lift it up and the side plate just comes out. Okay, here is the new spool for the Ryoga, and because you can't tell much from looking at this, here is the old spool of the outgoing Ryoga. You're gonna notice that, you know, let me show you the side plate of the old Ryoga. So the pins for the brake are here, and then they're right inside this ring over here that is mounted on the side plate. So this ring here is now actually kind of mounted on the spool itself. So they said the spool is lighter, but they put the ring itself on the spool. So let's check the weights on the two spools as are. You know, this is the 1520, by the way, not the 1020. So the spool on the 1000 size will be, I think it will be the same. It will just be not as deep as this one. Everything else will be the same. Probably the weight will be the same too. Okay, let's check the weight of the old spool first. By the way, I removed perfectly good line from this spool just for the video, so I hope you guys appreciate that. But this is 16.5 grams, okay? And now the new spool is 16.1 grams, okay? So even with this pretty heavy piece of brass here, altogether the spool assembly is now lighter than the old spool. So that's pretty good. And I'm afraid, guys, this is as much as I can open this reel without voiding the warranty. The gearbox is mag sealed on this side and on this side, I believe. I'm not 100% sure about having seal on this side. Daiwa is using their hyper mesh gears in this reel, and what those are is the teeth of the gears are significantly smaller than on the old Ryogas. However, they are cut with better precision, and the contact between the teeth, Daiwa claims that there is actually 50% more contact between the teeth of the pinion gear and the main gear, which not only increases the power of the reel dramatically, but also reduces the wear. So it improves the longevity of the gear. And of course, if the fit between the teeth is so perfect, the reel will feel in your hands smoother than the old generation. The older Ryogas, they feel amazing, perfectly smooth, but you can still feel the gears. It's actually a nice feeling, but you can feel the gears. In this new Ryoga, you can no longer feel the gears inside. Okay, it's like this thing here, it's rotating only over here, and it's not connected to gears inside the reel. This is how it feels. This is the best description I can give you. It's like there is no gears, there is no resistance. This gearbox is full of air, and that's it. You can no longer feel gears. The drag of the new Daiwa deserves some special attention, okay? On one hand, it is extra smooth. They all have amazingly smooth drags and very powerful, well, the old ones do. But this one takes, when you release it a little bit, it is very easy. There is no initial jerkiness, you know, you just push and it just goes. Extremely smooth drag. People will not believe that a round reel can have such smooth drag with such little initial resistance. On top of that, a major improvement for me personally and everybody who makes YouTube videos is the sound of the drag. This is not the clicker, this is the sound of the drag. When the fish starts peeling line, you're gonna hear this noise, even though you don't have a clicker. Okay. The sound of the drag is louder and not as frequent. On the older reels, there was a drag sound on every like 1 millimeter. It was too frequent, but not loud. Let me show you, even on the huge shrapnel. I don't know if you can even hear it. But it's more frequent and not as loud. And here is the bait jigging too. It sounds nothing like a spinning reel. I love this feature of a bait caster, but they have to, Daiwa, Shimano, you have to make it sound like a spinning reel. Everybody makes videos, people want the sound to stay in the video, okay? Don't underestimate this. So this one also not good. Well, compared to this. This one, much louder. Can you hear the difference? This feature alone is gonna make me prefer this reel over the old ones. Just so I can hear the sound and it stays in the video. But this is not the most interesting part about the drag in the new reel. Although certainly it's the better part of the drag. Let me show you the box for the old Daiwa Ryoga. This one is 1012, okay? So that one is 1500, this one is 1012. So the box on the 1012 says 7 kilograms of drag, which is whatever, 15 pounds or something like this. The box on the new one says 6 kilograms. So from 7 kilograms down to 6, or 2 pounds down. Now, I've always mocked these numbers, that especially these cheap casking reels, they put 20 pounds of drag, 50 pounds of drag, 100 pounds of drag coming soon to a store nearby. And I always mock these numbers, and you don't need more than, you know, I'm gonna use this for catfish, by the way, okay? I know some people mock this, but yes, I'm gonna use this reel for catfish. I'm never gonna use more than 5, maybe 6, 7 pounds of drag. I don't need the 13 pounds of drag or the 15 pounds of drag. And if you wanna use this reel for bass, please, you know, only saltwater fish can stress this reel enough so that the 13 or 15 pound of drag is not enough. But for me, the interesting part was, how come the numbers are going down? You know, this reel is not smaller than this. I would understand if no improvement, because you don't need more than 15 pounds of drag. And Daiwa's numbers are realistic, and I commend that. But how come it's going down? This really, you know, triggered my curiosity. And unfortunately, we can't open it to see what's going on. But I think I managed to find something interesting in the schematics. Let me show you. Okay, so here side by side we have the 1012 on the left, and we have the new 1520 on the right, and here is the drag stack on the old Ryoga. Look at all of these nice wide, I mean, look at this. How many square inches of drag surface you have here, and how many discs. This is a nice drag stack for such a small reel. Okay, now let's compare. Just look at these discs here. Let's find them on the new reel. There aren't any. What happened with all the drag discs? Where'd they go? 3/6 drag discs. Gone. We have this part here in the new one. 96, 97, 98, this one thick disc, okay? But it's present in the old one anyway. So this is not additional, that's the same in both reels. So all of the drag discs are gone, okay? So I don't want to stress the new Daiwa to test the 13 pounds versus the 15 pounds. But in my opinion, given that all of the drag discs are gone, I would be frankly surprised if the loss of drag pressure is only 1 kilogram. In my opinion, the drag of the newer Ryoga is significantly, I don't want to call it weaker, but not as much pressure as the old one. Now, I don't know if you can see one more difference here, but there is one very interesting consequence of them dropping all of the drag discs. Okay, here is the drag cap here. So we have some kind of bracket, washer, 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 cap. Let's look at the new one. We have the same bracket here, washer, 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 nut, spring. Look at part 109. We have a spring under the cap. Why did they have to put the spring? Because all of these nice carbon discs, you know, when they compress, when you start rotating the drag knob, it goes in and it compresses the carbon discs, okay? So this is how you put the pressure. Now, we don't have any carbon discs. We have only one big disc here. If they don't put the spring, when you start turning the knob, you'll just reach a point and it won't compress anymore. So they had to put the spring and use the spring to increase the pressure when you rotate the nut. They couldn't do this without the spring. And while I'm here, on a previous note, I don't see any seals around the pinion like you will see on the most expensive spinning gears to protect water entry into the gearbox over here. So I know these bearings are mag sealed, they're not gonna rust, so the pinion will keep spinning, but it's kind of unfortunate that they would allow water from the spool to get inside the gearbox. So the drag on the new Daiwa is smoother, has less initial resistance, has much better sound, but the overall capacity, in my opinion, I haven't opened the reel, just looking by the schematics, the overall capacity has been reduced from the previous generation more than the numbers on the box would suggest. But even with all of this, and even though I'm going to be using this reel for catfish, okay, I still put the drag of this reel in the good part of the Daiwa video, and I consider the changes to the drag a net positive to the reel. Alright guys, this is the end of part 2, the good part of Daiwa Ryoga. This is incredible piece of human engineering, you know, this is just as impressive as these, you know, space shuttles that travel to the moon. The new gears are the real thing. They will feel smoother, and you will immediately notice this when you test the reel. The handle is better, the reel is significantly lighter for those of you that are going to cast all day. The side plate is smaller, it's nicer to palm now, the drag is smoother and it's more enjoyable to listen. This cast control knob here is a big improvement in my opinion. You can't go wrong anymore with too much or too little. The new magnetic brakes, they're going to be in the second part, but part of the magnetic brakes makes the adjustment much better than the older Ryoga as well. If I didn't find these issues with this reel, I would say that at $400 this reel is still worth the money. I mean, it's incredibly impressive piece of fishing equipment. However, if you're interested in this reel, do not purchase until you see the next video. It's probably going to be 15 or 20 minutes of me ranting about a couple of things. Guys, do not buy this reel until you see the next video, okay? That's it for this one. I'll see you in a couple of days. Bye bye.